Hello and welcome everyone to the PUBG Mobile Titan Series Pro Scrims watch party. I'm one of the two pretty faces you're seeing here tonight, Enigma, but of course, it's not just me here today. We've got the GOAT Red Eyes next to me, VIP content creator. We've got the pub stomper and of course, friend of mine. Red Eyes, how are you feeling tonight?
Oh, you know, brother, every day is a holiday when you get to sit down and watch some intense PUBG Mobile NA action, brother.
Oh yeah. I mean, for any sort of stuff when it comes to PUBG, you're just like me then. You got to be dialed in. You got it either on the side broadcast or maybe you're even in it like tonight. But hopefully for these teams, they're kind of coming in prepared. We'll get into them in just a minute here, Red Eyes. But for the most part, for all the people here tonight, you're going to want to make sure you're following every sort of social media we've got here tonight. We're talking PUBG Mobile. We're talking the PUBG Mobile Esports NA official Twitter and Instagram accounts. If you're already watching the stream, you're on the YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And if you're wanting to potentially even compete here in this event or in future events, we're talking the Discord's your best spot for it. They'll lead you to it. Any of these and all these events will be posted here every single time on these socials. It's the best place for you to get this information when it matters most if you're wanting to either compete or be a viewer like tonight. But Red Eyes, man, these teams, okay, we're talking the PUBG Mobile Titan Series squads. These teams here tonight, it's going to be 16 total, all coming from NA. Is there anyone you're seeing here tonight that's really catching your eye?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, none of these teams are going to be from the Challenger or Ladies Division. Tonight, we're working with all Premier Leagues. And so these, a lot of these teams are some that we are pretty familiar with. We got names like NRG, SLR, the Eagles, and Inco that definitely ring familiar to us. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on, you know, teams like SLR, who, if I remember correctly, you know, the Titan Series Season 5 winners, you know, and again, I'm going to be keeping a especially close eye on teams like Inco, you know. Inco is a phenomenal organization, phenomenal team. However, they can be a bit conditional and, you know, third place in Titan Season 6 currently, but then, you know, 13th overall in PMSL fall, it could go either way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of that redundance of these teams when it comes to these tournaments, especially SLR, where they have these upper performances in these tournaments. And then when it comes to those major qualifications for, let's say, even PMSL Americas, we're talking these squads really just drop the ball. NRG, obviously, we saw them in America's Red Eyes. They didn't really perform that well. Now, for Straight Out of Nepal, Ace of Spades, Dauntless, we've seen their logo countless of times, right? These teams, for the most part, since they're always just these premier squads here tonight, they've gone against each other a lot in the past. And this is kind of this off season, right? Where most of these teams aren't in PMGC. We're talking, it's just, I believe, Inco Gaming from this lobby that's actually in that event. So they're at least getting their practice in. But for these other squads, man, I mean, you got to be putting your work in now because you're wanting to make the event in PMSL Americas. Or if Titan Series is your goal, make it into Titan Series again and get into that finals bracket because that's only a few short weeks away.
Yeah, and there are a couple new names and faces here that might not quite have that synergy built up or that familiarity with some of these other teams. And I'm, of course, speaking of teams like Far Voice Gaming, Inferno Esports, Maryland, Shining Legacy, and Zero 2. So a lot of room for surprise left on the table.
Yeah, and I think Maryland, I'm kind of throwing up the question like maybe if that's like a college team or something, you know, usually when it comes to these sort of state branded names, we think it's maybe a collegiate team that's competing. I'm not sure if we can get information on that later on, but for myself personally, I'm going to be looking at NRG. I want to see what that roster, that organization's sort of, I guess, squad is going to look like because their goal was top 8. Red Eyes, and they didn't make it in America's obviously Titan Series. I believe I felt they kind of just dropped the ball a little bit on that too. So for namesake players having a namesake org, we're expecting namesake results, and we haven't really gotten that. Now, unfortunately for these other squads, they still have to deal with those vetted players on that team. It's not like their squad isn't a force to be reckoned with still. They got to be coming in. They got to be dialed in here tonight or else they're going to get absolutely obliterated in these 3 matches tonight. But for these squads, I believe we can bring it back to us too for the most part. These teams right now, Red Eyes, obviously you've done a little bit of observing in the past. These teams really are wanting to actually compete for this sort of prize pool that's going to be here tonight. So hopefully we can bring that up for a short second here, because what are we looking at, Red Eyes?
Well, brother, there is a lot of money to be had via the cost of chicken. With a $4,500 prize pool on the table, there is plenty of payouts available to these participants, with a $600 gold medal first place prize, a $350 for silver, $200 for bronze, and even paying out all the way down to sixth place. And on that, to top it all off, the little cherry on the ice cream enigma is that we are giving out a $100 USD MVP prize per day.
Yeah, I mean, the MVP is the icing on a cake, because if you're seeing that first place spot, you're going to most likely assume 9 times out of 10 it's going to be going to first place. So potentially walking away with $700 tonight. Some of these squads, it is a few short matches getting here tonight, but if we're talking scrims, no one's doing money scrims. Titan series takes a little bit of qualification before you're in the prize pool. So if you're showing up here tonight, you're able to get some quick cash, and we all love that sort of green cheddar on the chicken, so to speak. But for the most part, the schedule, guys, tonight is obviously the 21st, day one of this event. This isn't the only time we're doing this. We're coming back next week, the 26th, and then the week after that on December 5th. Same prize pool going for each of these. So there's a chance for first place. If you were to be, let's say, NRG, and you go 3 for 3 in first, you're walking away with $1,800. Plus, if you get a few MVPs with that. So Red Eyes, these teams, man, they're loving it for the most part. And for the prize pool, I've always been a huge fan of it. You know, any sort of money on the line, being a previous competitor, I've enjoyed it for the most part. But for you, you know, you haven't really been in that sort of competitive sphere for the most part, Red Eyes. Do you think the money's really going to change a lot for these teams?
I absolutely do. And I think we've seen it time and time again. Money adds a bit of caution to the wind, a bit of hesitancy, so to speak. And I think the prize pool itself could lend to a bit of a more passive early game. And especially for the first match. Now, remember, we're only getting into 3 matches a day here, so there's not a lot of time for hesitancy. But we have seen it, you know, with this much money on the table, no one is so overly eager to make those initial mistakes. No one wants to give up their shot at a $4,500 prize pool. That $600 first place prize for literally 3 games worth of work. Yeah, I'm not going to be the guy running across a field outside of Pachinko if that kind of money's on the line. Versus, let's say this is just another day of business, you know, for you, you know, just another casual scrim for practice. Yeah, that's where you're going to be practicing those a little bit more elaborate rotations and drills. Here, I think we're going to be seeing things a little bit closer to the books.
Yeah, I think the book is where you got to play it. And with it being 3 games, I know a lot of teams, especially when it comes to the more longer tournament formats, as soon as, you know, maybe they drop the ball one of the days, they kind of just tuck tail and run away. But for these teams here tonight, let's say you have one pop-off game, there's a chance that those other teams that win those other 2 matches alongside you, maybe they drop a goose egg, maybe they only get 2 or 3 eliminations. It allows these teams to really kind of have this idea of all it takes is one solid game. If you can get a few eliminations in the other rounds, that's your ticket for $600 and potentially even an extra 100 on top of it if you're the star player. That will obviously be posted on social media. We won't be crowning that here tonight, unfortunately. But for these teams, Red Eyes, going into it, of course, these squads right now, a little bit of nerves shaking in my eye right now. If you're going to have to take a guess of who's going to be taking match 1, who are you really kind of thinking?
So, all right, this is going to be a conditional answer here.
Oh, man.
So one of 2 ways. So I will put down 2 predictions. I'll put down LR and Inko, and here is why. Inko is the conditional under the impression that they start off with hitting the ground running. They are not afraid to make their moves. They look at themselves as maybe the bit more of the veteran team here, and maybe that adds a little bit of confidence into the equation. And if they are feeling confident coming in today, then I think we could see a little bit more of early on aggression from them, and that is, I think, going to set the tone, if they do set the tone, for the remainder of the next 2 matches. However, if not, if they do have that conditional start where they're not quite able to put down the points that they are hoping for, I think that could affect the mental and put a little bit of hesitancy and caution to the wind. And this is a team that is very, very, very experienced. and realistically should be feeling fairly confident coming into an event like today. But if they are going to be playing a little overly cautious and it doesn't pay out in match one, I think that I would put it up to SLR to take up the slack.
Yeah, and I mean, SLR seems to always be that team that really kind of just pulls through in a lot of these, at least NA-focused events. They were always near that top three. A lot of these teams, I think, kind of discredit that squad for how much effort and teamwork they really put into this sort of game. Because for the most part, if we're thinking about it, some of these people, you know, they're playing 6-8 hours a day. They're showing up day in, day out, the 9 to 5 essentially for them, wanting to get to those LAN events, trying to make a name for himself and trying to get to that PMGC lobby, so to speak. So Inco Gaming, NRG, those people that have had this sort of international talent, those are going to be where my eyes are set, especially depending on if those squads maybe are looking at already having roster changes. Maybe it's kind of up in the air. I know a lot of the people here tuning in tonight have already watched PUBG Mobile Esports, so they're probably interested in as well in what these squads are really kind of looking at for each other. But when you come to this Inco Gaming idea, you talk about the sort of cautionary play that they have, right? Maybe, you know, since there's money on the line, I got to see the whole 180 in that regard. I want to see him full aggression, because if you're an international team like that, like Inco Gaming, I expect you to be able to show up in a lobby like this and really start slaying and fragging out. And especially for their squad where they're needing the practice, they made that roster change pretty early within the last few months, just short of that Americas tournament, actually just barely qualifying through that event, you know. So these squads right now, especially tonight, if you're one of these NA teams, you want to take down one of the top dogs, be in that top 6, I guess, money placement, because obviously everyone's wanting to walk away with a little bit of cash here tonight. If not, then you're wanting to make a name for yourself, and what better way to do it than being on the big screen in front of everyone. But for the most part here, I believe we're getting the game soon. These teams right now getting dialed in on the plane here, Red Eyes. And for these squads, we can actually take a quick little look at the map rotation I believe we have ready now. The 3 matches here tonight, we're talking first game here, Red Eyes, is going to be Erangel. We're playing all 3 competitive matches here tonight. Miramar second, and then into the jungle for the 3rd match. But if we're picking a favorite map, I'm going to ask you, I don't care how serious we are here tonight, Red Eyes, what map are we looking at?
Well, you know, if we're going to go for favorites from an observer perspective and from a commentary's perspective, it's going to be the Rumble in the Jungle all day, baby. You got to save the best for last. That close quarter combat specializing. And the best part about Sanhok is the natural cover that is basically all around you. So the element of surprise that can pop up at any given moment, you're never safe in Sanhok.
Yeah, Sanhok's always my favorite, at least when it's come to me commentating now. Now, when I used to be a player, I really enjoyed Miramar, because it's that long-range gameplay. You kind of work the map more. Erangel's that standard level. You know, everyone's got the map downloaded as soon as you log on to PUBG Mobile. That's your go-to. That's the bread and butter for everyone. So I expect it's just a matter of who really is able to show up and really compete here tonight on Erangel, at least for this first match. And with us coming around to it, Red Eyes, I believe they're giving us the ringer for it to go through with Erangel. Match number 1 of the PUBG Mobile Titan Series Pro Scrims. Us, of course, being the watch party. We're getting right into it, baby.
That's right. The very first map ever introduced to the game. Erangel, by far, the one that our participants are most familiar with. This is the comfort play here. And this is by far the one that they're going to be feeling a little bit less of the nerves in terms of surprise angles. But we are so far along into PUBG Mobile Esports that at this stage, every map should be a comfort zone, as we're basically focusing with 3 primaries. So here we have the flight path, not the most ideal, not the most opportunistic, but really not that horrible of a flight path either. It is going to leave way to a lot of potential drop spots like, you know, let's say Pachinki, Georgia Pole, North, South, even all the way down to the Milta Power and Novo. It's going to leave a lot of options on the table. So it might lead to a little bit of a less contesting initial first zone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, when it comes, it's always that first zone, right? It depends where these teams are going to have to rotate to. Obviously, if it pulls to Primoris, we're going to see a lot of teams do an early rotation. But my most hated playing path, I know a lot of the competitors can agree with me as well, unless you're dropping military base, is going to be if it just goes that east to west sort of playing patches right over Millie base. Like, you're not even on the map at that point, but we are seeing the first zone shift. A lot of these teams are going to be in it. No real contest, it looks like, on the map for what I'm seeing so far, other than maybe towards that Novo Bridge. Going to be centered up towards Mansion. These teams, Red Eyes, you know, it's another day in the office for Erangel, but we know time and time again, especially with these newer teams that come in, like Maryland and the likes that you noted earlier, they might be switching things up here.
Yeah, and so we've got some new team names, but some player names that aren't all that foreign to us. You know, we see Cat God Malkin here, just trying to get their early loot, just trying to get properly equipped before and engaging in the early on confrontations. And so it is these brief few, you know, 2 to 3 minute windows here right off the rip where these moments matter critically, just getting properly looted. And you have a very short window before, you know, people are starting to scout. So I think these teams like, you know, Inferno, X-Force, you know, these newer names, Maryland, they're the surprise factors for us here. They're going to be the ones that can always keep me on my toes because I don't know what to expect from them. I think this is going to be a bit of a learning experience, getting to know their play styles here in this first match here. But as we know to be the nature of PUBG Mobile Esports, every map offers different geographical advantages, disadvantages, and so the playstyle will change up on a map-to-map basis. So what, you know, we know to be, you know, the ticket for Erangel might not be the go-to strategy for, let's say, T Games here on Sanhok.
Yeah, I mean, NA for the most part, we're a gun region, okay? I'm not expecting us to make too crazy of rotations. I expect us to really kind of take these fights early on if you are looking for that edge play. Now, one thing I really kind of like how you stated it there, Red Eyes, is you talk about these teams that, you know, they're kind of on a timer. That internal clock starts ticking, especially for rotations. And if you're a team like with a player, Cat God or someone like that, they're around that center part of the zone. You have the pickings on that first zone to really maybe either hold a spread or take one of those prime real estate spots in zone, or else you're going to really just start leaving it up for these other teams on the edge to make their way through. And that's why when it comes to these teams like NRG, they love edge play. They land on the edge of the map. They're not landing Pachinki, as well as, you know, these other teams like, I believe it's Inco Gaming, really enjoys just playing this slow play, which I never liked. I don't like being the team that kind of has to, I hate driving. I'm always the one that gets shot out, especially even in ranked play if I'm playing it. They're always just gunning me out of it. Everyone's just a better player than me, I guess, when it comes for it. But these teams,
driver.
Hey, you know, I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm driving. It doesn't matter if I'm in the back seat. Red Eyes, they just gun me out of it. I feel just like a lost little lamb out there on the field. But these teams
Enigma,
right
I'm going to tell you a trick I learned.
Okay.
Over a long, illustrious career in PUBG Mobile, I learned that not being a great driver means you don't have to drive. So,
hey, I mean, it works out like that, but then you think of it and it's like, man, if only we had another vehicle for like a, you know, a vehicle wall, or, you know, maybe we just needed an extra set of tires, an extra vehicle. So if you don't know how to drive, especially when it comes to competitive play here, hopefully we'll see, you know, 1 or 2 car crashes so I don't feel too bad tonight saying that. But
3 tries to get my driver's license, man. I don't know what all I have to do is just tell people that, and they'll, you know, they can bicker amongst the 3 of them of who drives. But one thing that we know for sure, Red Eyes is the passenger seat commander.
Hey, passenger king, as we like to call it. Passenger king. I mean, you're the one with the aux. You got the music playing. And I believe there was, gosh, how long? I feel old asking you this question. How long ago was that Ariana Grande, Alan Walker mashup that PUBG Mobile had? That had to have been, what, 3 years ago?
2.5 or 3. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I remember getting the mask for it.
Really?
That was literally my first time hearing about Alan Walker, no less.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for that, I know every player. I don't want to, like, you know, shout PUBG Mobile or anything. You know, I love that song. But it's like they didn't have an option to mute it in the first, like, day. And, you know, obviously we're showing up, we're playing scrims, and we've played 2 scrim blocks. We're playing like 8, 9 games of just hearing this music go off, because it didn't matter if you were in the car, if your teammate was in one, you'd hear it. And then, you know, maybe someone's got that echo kind of mic. You're hearing it twice. You're getting a little bit kind of crazy going through the matches.
Going to sleep and waking up, and that's the first song stuck in your head.
It was not the movies release. That's not, I mean, man, but they've done so many cool mashups like Goku and stuff, you know, like Dragon Ball. It's actually so sick how much they're doing stuff.
That's one of the things that I love about PUBG Mobile is the game being spaced around just so few maps. How do they keep it fresh? Well, they add a new event mode in, you know, every season, keeping a new. You always learn new aspects of a game. You know, while it might not change the entirety of the game itself, it adds enough variety into the mix to keep things fresh and exciting for us. But here we see it. We got Moso of the Eagles, and it looks like he has perched his nest in this little shack here. Now, I don't know about you, Enigma, but time and time again, I find that these little shacks are a team's undoing. Just those little 4 walls providing that false sense of security. And then next thing you know, one nade even halfway aimed in through a window, and boom, you're done. But look, we see it here in the kill feed. Looks like Maryland going after the Lions themselves. And I was that 1 or 2 members of Inco knocked.
I think it was a knock and a thirst, but Maryland seems like they're going to be the first people with money on the board, so to speak, that squad. And, you know, they probably caught him on rotation or something, but I got to go back to the shack play, because Moso, I thought he was going to get spotted by the guy driving the coupe, you know, around. I thought one of the Inferno Esports players was going to spot him in the shack, but it doesn't seem like they know he's there just yet. But all about that solo play. Hopefully, whoever's doing the observing tonight for us, Red Eyes, hopefully they're able to kind of just have one person just idled on him. Because as soon as something happens, I want to know how many players he gets, if he's the one that kind of gets ratted out himself after staying in the shack. Because if it shifts away, you're kind of screwed in that shack. You're not going to be able to really go anywhere. Like hopefully, you know, you can open the door and close it, get behind the shack real quick. But and you
without a
vehicle,
without a planned escape route there, it is going to be limited options. But, you know, it's also that sort of battle of patience, too, because he's got multiple members of Inferno there nearby also playing the waiting game here. But they've got a little bit of a little slack in the rope in that they've got some support systems nearby. Now, our buddy in the shack is a lone wolf. And so he doesn't really... Patience, he's like, yeah, no, you don't have to tell me to be patient. I've got this. I will sit and chill. I mean, the man could camp so hard, he deserves a North Face sponsorship.
It's funny you say that. I'm wearing a North Face jacket. It's so funny you say that. But hey, I never was a lone wolf. I always did the buddy system, and it was usually me going in first and just giving information. Because some people, when they get, you know, in a fight, Red Eyes, I want to ask you if you do this. When you get in a fight, do you start like choking up almost? You don't say anything. You're just locked in when you're spraying, or
I start choking up way before the fight. I started choking about 6 years ago and then haven't stopped. Here we have it. Inferno engaging with the likes of, I believe that was Far Voice Gaming there. Chills putting out a couple of shots. Looks more like warning shots there. Minimal damage sent outward, but enough to add a little bit of caution in the win. And Far Voice turns around, 180s it, giving themselves a little bit of distance between themselves and their opposition. Now, Inferno gonna have to keep a 360, a firm 360 about them, because if they lock in on Far Voice out there, they're gonna forget about their homies nearby. And I believe, yep, we do have an opposition member. That's our Shack Boy, I believe, very, very close by and laying low and quiet. And that sneaky little snake can start slithering forward if they, you know, start, no pun intended, start seeing red and focusing in on Far Voice too much. And then X-Force putting some warning shots Maryland's way as they work their way into Roshawk Hill.
Yeah, I mean, X-Force, they were the team that dropped school. They actually chose just to kind of split between, it seems like, those dog shacks up on the hill and the apartment buildings just to the east of school. But Far Voice Gaming, that's the team that I believe has Nate Balak as well, previous professional, and I believe he's a VIP for the content program for PUBG Mobile. Farboys, the one scary thing that's really kind of got to make note of when you're on the sort of eastern side of the zone is you're making rotations like this, especially if you're solo in a car like we're seeing right now, you're not able to shoot back. You got to just hope the player misses his shots and you're able to kind of jump out and start taking sort of pod actions at him. But 0-2, they're actually looking for this fight, I believe, on the likes of NRG. But oh, if you're flipping the buggy, that's not what you're wanting, Red Eyes. And the scary thing is
Star Fox, buddy. We're not trying to do those barrel rolls.
The scary thing though is if you're in the buggy, that's what the only vehicle outside of a motorcycle where if you start flipping, you can actually get knocked. Buggy's so fragile, even though it's got the roll cage, it'll blow up on you. I know everyone's got it. Luckily, there's no red zone in these matches. Oh man, if they have red zone in this Red Eyes, I'd be losing my mind.
Bold move here for a team with an every man for themselves vehicle approach to be pushing this way towards a care package. And as you were saying, you know, not having that passenger seat shooter definitely makes it a coin flip. Yeah, you're not all going to be taken out in one spray, but if you have no ability to be mobile and defend yourself simultaneously, that is a pretty risky position to be pushing to an open field to be collecting that.
It's crazy. You're talking about opening fields. The observers are doing an amazing job. Inferno Esports getting a knock on one of the Farvoice gaming players in the field, I believe, just to the east. They had an initial opening knock and thirst on Inferno Esports, so it looks like they're starting to constrict down. SnowX actually taking the roadside, preventing them from having a free rotation in. And this is kind of the trouble. We're on the north side. You're out of zone. You got to worry about making these rotations in without you having the time to have already scouted this like you should have done maybe 30 seconds to a minute ago. But hey, there's a reason why. Oh, wait a second, we're back. Mozo, he's going in and he got one.
That DBS double barrel close quarter combat life ender there. But remember what I said about the shack, Enigma? Well, Kun Jaedon has a nade to try to illustrate my point clearly here. See, this area where Mozo's going, he has no choice but to heal or... And as I say that, I'm proven wrong right in my tracks, but he is basically fishing a barrel and with no choice but to push out there or face the hellfire that's going to crash upon him. And at that point, pushed right out into the open, right out into the line of fire. And no time to even focus on it as NRG engaging in the distance. And now Golden Eagles working their way onto NRG as well.
Yeah, the knock and thirst that Mozo got was actually onto an NRG player, so they decided to tuck tail, leave that player to die on the shack, and then ultimately ended up just fighting a whole nother team. Seeing Spec trying to make his way in, but I think he's down to just himself as the squad, maybe a duo. Looks like these squads. So this north side is kind of this prime little hot pot for these teams. Our boys taking a few shots. Oh, wait a second, the battle of the south on the mountain. Maryland making the mountain goats proud. I'm not sure if that's even their logo.
Thanking his lucky stars there. Just surviving by the hair on his chin. And now literally Casper, you know, with the name being named after a ghost, clinging to a vehicle as his cover here for dear life and being focused in from the front and behind. Multiple teams. These guys are handling themselves under pressure phenomenally. All the while, Poppy dropped hit by the Lion themselves. Rush from Inko. Remember, Inko at this point reduced down to a 3-piece. They lost Blicky early on, so now it's just 7, Drush and Gary here, and now a battle of utilities ensues.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rush couldn't get that thirst. He's going to have to start getting active here, but their south side, just on the hill, is going to be in contention from another team. So they got to really worry about this third party, the gaps in the opening. But the nade looking kind of good. He got 2, actually. The pull-up as well. They're going to get thirsted immediately. And the 180, I mean, he's not even stopping. This man does not rest. He's got 1.
Save some elims for the rest of the playing field, my man. Nate dropped down, but now the snow is about to start falling, and Rush needs to do something soon. Rotating, but yeah, we got Scottish coming up from the south end. Snow is holding the other angle of the house, and now they're just going to make hellfire crash in that house, trying to, like, I guess you could say, smoke them out. You know, trying to force them out of the house here. Ooh. This is an interesting, a bit of a risky attempt here by Farvoice because yeah, they're closing in on Inko, but they've got a threat just behind them as well. And all the while, Maryland and Ace of Spades going blow for blow here. Becker with the S12 swallowing that bullet damage, going prone, and now he's got Kiddo to worry about. Oof, you don't mess with the kid.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland, they had a good start. They wiped out X Factor and unfortunately weren't able to pick up anymore. Looks like Golden Eagles as well was eliminated. A lot of these teams, these early engagements were obviously in stage 4, but still pretty early on for these squads we find. I believe that's actually NRG as well, yeah. Some of these big name squads, big name players, at least Red Eye's getting eliminated early, but when it comes to these teams and their positionings, I'm loving the Inco gaming spots we have them on screen. This roadside, you just fan out, completely tuck tail and play the terrain. As long as no one takes the mountainside that they're working towards, they'll be able to sit pretty for the time being. But these teams right now, Red Eyes, there's 41 remaining. Hopefully, there's kind of more players alive than, you know, maybe the ranked games we're used to seeing. That's always a nice sign when it comes to these professional lobbies. But these fights, they're happening early on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we got D2 here above us engaging in bloodbath warfare here, and these next maybe minute to minute and a half, 2 minutes, are going to be critical. Teams and players are going to drop like flies here, and especially having so much open field here in this late game zone, every player knows the importance of keeping a vehicle handy and ready, even if you know, you don't need it for rotation. That could be the only cover standing between you and a bullet to the face.
Well, the bullets of, I mean, I'm number one that likes eating bullets like that. I'm not the Terminator or anything. I wish I was. You know how cool that'd be? I'd be a millionaire for the most part. But one team that has shown up time and time again, at least a player that's been around for ages, Klaus and Ten. So they actually have Coops as well playing in the lobby. So some big names taking the fight with straight out of Paul. One of our NA repeat teams that comes in time and time again. But Klaus getting caught out on the run back. Frankie finding one on each squad, kind of down. They're trying to find the refrag from the frag grenades. But oh my goodness, Wolf just Kobe Bryant back here, almost getting Coops as well.
He huffed, he puffed, and then he just naded their house right on down. And now straight out in the Paul, yeah, I could hear myself caster cursing them in real time. And Frankie, now in just a matter of moments, reduced down to the final hope for straight out in Nepal. Is it going to be straight out of Erangel and back to lobby for him? Or are they going to be able to clutch? Well, there is the distant threat across the way. That is going to be what takes him out, all things considered. But Coops, the name that strikes fear in the hearts of every NA pro. You don't want that 1v1 with this man. You just don't. I mean, you could say what you want, but the history has proven itself time and time again. Coops, who dominated the NA League before, switching to other regions, performing phenomenally on those. Great to see him back. I mean, he's a shining star for the NA community. But talk about a shiver down your spine. Well, all the while, Kvik getting Versa of Ace of Spades. We got D2 putting that hurt down on Klaus, and Dauntless has no daunt left.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate. That team, it looked like Coops had 1 or 2 knocks as well, trying to save it, but 4 players just too much. Now Ace of Spades, we're down to the solo, trying to find his mark in the lobby. Not going to be the case. I believe that's going to be at least 1 point for placements. Not too terrible, but the rest of these teams want to last longer and longer in these lobbies. This is how you get the points going up onto that leaderboard. We're talking the eliminations. We're talking that top 3 placements is where it's at. Unfortunately, XYQ getting eliminated as well. I believe that's Adder and Valak's squad. So these teams, they're coming in and they're starting to really fall early. I'm kind of surprised here, Red Eyes.
Well, we're seeing teams like, 0-2, some that we are a bit less familiarized with, but already with 7 points on the board here. Now, as you mentioned, we are into the rank placement here. So every team that survives, just 1 more slot up, that's extra points in the basket. At this stage, you don't necessarily need to engage in these altercations to get additional points. You can sort of lay low, let those numbers dwindle, but that's more so for teams like 0-2, XYQ, and X-Force. Say teams like Inco, Super Lazy, and Shining, with less points there on the board, they're going to probably want to make up a little bit of that deficit and might feel a little bit more pressure. And here we see Stars engaging in a utility battle against D2 here and now.
Yeah, SLR, I mean, Stars, he's a key player as well as gone international. Someone that's played in PUBG Mobile for ages, actually coached for the last split of America's, I believe, an EA roster, but looking to try to get back into it. That competitive itch is always there, and only down to a duo. They're having to deal with this sort of nade tear that's raining down on them through the hillside, but it's all about kind of just keep moving. You're not wanting to really stand still and make your presence known in too exact of a spot. But this is the other issue. When the nades start coming, when there's too much time you're giving to a squad like SLR, you're allowing them the chance, Red Eyes, to potentially get the reset going, because if he's able to make it around, he's able to get reset, but like they're not going to let it happen. Everyone's got to start getting active, and this is the difference in comp play, Red Eyes. They don't stay and keep fighting. They're looking for that ISO player. They're taking the initiative and looking like the 2v1 spot, but
yeah, I was going to ask when it was going to happen. When is Farvoice going to strike from afar there? I mean, as soon as you saw him driving around that hill edge, you're like looking at the map, double check and say, well, I should be able to see them any moment now. And, you know, that's the ability of that 2020 observer vision here. Gary and the rest of Inco, not so lucky. They don't have that observer's view, that little God's eye view that we have here, that extra info. Now, Rush, the final hope for Inco, trying his best, clinging to life with just this vehicle, and he's got a Shining Legacy member in the distance. That's going to be Crusher. Not sure if Crusher is doesn't look like he has any idea of Rush's location up until those shots. And no time to waste. XY faces the lion himself, and no time to celebrate a knock at all. The moment you get that knock, before you can say yes, you're dropped down to the prone zone. And that is unfortunate. That's going to leave Cloudy as the final hope here for XYQ. It doesn't look like he was going to try the new feature of, you know, grabbing his teammate, putting him in the vehicle, and driving to a place of safety. No time. Open field, lots of elevation, lots of high ground, and that means lots of cause for concern for this low ground holder, Cloudy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stealing that term, by the way, the prone zone.
That's a Red Eyes
way
original.
Too good. The prone zone. I'm pointing it. I'm stealing it. I'm taking it.
Well, the clouds are cleared.
Yeah, unfortunately, just the nade knock. We knew he was going to be eliminated at some point. Who's not going to look at a monster truck on a rock? You know, I'm not.
And I was going to say the dad joke, the obvious dad joke stuck in between a rock and a hard place. But you know, it was just too easy. And I want you to know, I hear the dad jokes are cringy. I hear it. I'm cringing too, but I can't stop.
Hey,
all right,
cringe all we want. Listen, I don't mind feeling old if I get a good chuckle out of it. Okay, Red Eyes?
Every time you say you don't mind feeling you're old, do you know the age difference between you and me? Like, that is the most passive-aggressive move.
You're 25 at most, right? 25.
Let's add another decade onto that, Chief.
Wow. Well, we'll act like that combo didn't happen. We'll act like that didn't happen. No, we're the same age, Red Eyes. We're the same age, trust me.
We're the same maturity. How's that? That's a nice halfway point.
I'll take that one.
X-Force has all the cards in their table right now, dude, with 8 elims already on the board, and they still have a 3-piece. That means literally only 6 other players spread across 2 teams to worry about. And yeah, could this be? I don't know what the dispersion is here. I don't know how exactly it's divided. It doesn't. Okay, we do know now. Shining Legacy has a full 4-piece, which means that I guess, yeah, it is going to be an advantage Shining Legacy, who has been a bit more of a hesitant team so far.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to put my cards in the 0-2 table here and put my vote on them. Even as a 3-piece, they're able to act aggressively, able to take on their fights, both close CQCs and their distance altercations. And this is kind of the ample opportunity in zone to really thrive for a team like that, who isn't afraid of their close quarters, but really is good with those distance shots. And here we see Bebe utilizing that high ground every moment that he can. I mean, until that zone closes in, he's going to try to get that overwatch to the last second, and you can't blame him. He's got Shining Legacy really up kind of against the curve here. They don't have a lot of room to move around here.
Yeah.
And with, well, to be honest, every team, if you look at it in that way, is sort of pinched between another team. So I guess no one really has that option of really pulling any wide rotations without facing that altercation. And, you know, the ever prominent recurrent theme here when you're down to your final 3 teams is there's going to be the goal, maybe I can lay low and let these 2 guys hurt each other and then come in and pick off the remainder of what's left, the scraps, a weekend victor. And we'll see if that's happening. Crow perched over on the side, and like fish in a barrel, the Crow is ready to strike down on him.
Yeah, I've never heard of a Crow being able to kind of...
You never heard of a Feast for Crow? You never read Game of Thrones, bro?
No, well, I've never read it, okay? I've watched it. I don't like reading. What do you think I am? We're not back in your day. Now I'm making an old joke. I'm not giving it to you there. But,
it was a simpler time.
Listen, you were talking about these teams, right? Wait a second. You're talking about 0-2. I'm like, you know, they're a duo. They're top elimination guys already out of the lobby. I see them kind of going through here. No, they're just going to 1v3 X-Force. They're going to turn and get more knocks going. But now, since they're able to clean up that fight with the help of Shining Legacy, top 2 teams, they're having to battle it out. But it's a 2v4, Red Eyes. Do you think 0-2 still has it in them?
I do. I think that 0-2 is engaging a lot more eagerly, let's say, than Shining Legacy. But here's it again. Now it's down to Crow alone and Shining Legacy, the team who have everything to prove. We didn't know what to predict from them. And look at these guys thriving. And just that, we were talking about not wasting a moment. Shining Legacy just cut me short in my tracks, driving right up to the enemy. And boy, the taste of chicken fresh on their tongue.
Yeah, I mean, the winner chicken dinner, Red Eyes. What more can you say to it? I mean, this squad, you were discussing that idea of, you know, 0-2, they got 2 players. They got the Elam Shining Legacies. Yeah, we got 4 players, though. We've kind of just been vibing on that east side of the hill, and they made it look damn easy in that lobby. And for the first game, you know, even though they didn't get a lot of eliminations, I like seeing these teams really start off the gate strong. Getting the placement points makes up for it. And with it only being 3 games tonight, Red Eyes, all it takes is 1 solid game, a few eliminations, and the other ones to secure yourself that $600 that's on the line tonight for first place.
You know what's extra exciting? You know what's extra exciting about this, Enigma? Before we get into these MVPs, is that our top 2 teams, new name orgs here to us, you know? This gives me a lot of hope for, you know, the future of, you know, PUBG Mobile NA. We got a lot to still be surprised about. You know, we can watch a lot of these teams for 5-6 years and still be surprised.
Yeah.
But who is the overall MVP of round 1?
Well, round 1, we're pulling it up right now. It's actually going to be Baton dropping down with 6 elims, 800, just short of 900 total damage in the lobby. And this is going to be that 0-2 squad. That's not the first place team, Red Eyes. That was second place. But if you're able to put up the numbers, you're still able to get MVP for the match. Now, reminder to everyone watching in chat, the MVP amount, that $100 that we had shown earlier, that will be posted at the end of the night. It's not a per game amount. It's throughout the whole day. So this is just a nice little show of who kind of popped off in that last match. This Erangel we just witnessed. But going into it, I mean, Baton, we didn't get to see much screen time of it, but that team moved as a squad, Red Eyes. And if you have someone still that's able to show up and kind of outshine the rest, you love to see it.
Yeah, and, you know, we were watching Baton there in that very final moment in game, and honestly, he was putting on his chef's hat and dealing out second and third servings of damage left and right down to the very last minute, getting, I believe, 2 knocks from a distance there before that that in-game push. So yeah, I'm 100% on board. Not really surprised to see Baton as the MVP.
Yeah, and I mean, when we're talking about the MVP, we obviously got to talk about the most valuable team in the lobby. It's not just players here tonight. We're looking at Red Eyes. It doesn't matter what stats you're putting up, because we're looking at 0-2. They weren't even the team that finished first place in this last match, but them, with having that 14 eliminations, with having almost that just over, I guess you could say, 2,500 damage marker, that's roughly 600 damage almost per player on your squad. So that team, it wasn't just Baton, it was the rest of them showing up tonight. And with it being the first game, I understand we've only got 2 left after this. It's still nice signs for a squad.
Yeah, and you want to put it into fractions, because fractions speak louder than words. And 14 eliminations, brother, that's essentially, close to 25% of the playing field.
Jeez.
So, yeah, there's that berserker strategy I talk about, just guns ablazing and 0-2 in shining form here, earning every elim they got with damage to almost double it.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, we talk about that damage number. All these numbers, I'm always a numbers kind of guy. We could see who's really performing and whatnot, but let's get that overall sort of number screen going on for you guys tonight. We talk about the MVP, the MVT. We're talking about the overall now, 0-2, even though they finished only in that second place, getting 6 placement points. Those 14 eliminations they got, Red Eyes shoots them up to that first place slot. Shining Legacy, a team that we hadn't heard of before, coming in and securing that second place. X-Force just behind them, and then down underneath we have XYQ, but everyone past 4th, Red Eyes, they're in the single digit range still.
Yeah, and as we said, there's only 1 match per map each night. So if Erangel is their comfort zone, well, that's good and all, but let's see how they handle a little destruction in the desert or a little rumble in the jungle, because that play style that worked so well here for 0-2 and Shining Legacy in round 1 may not be the ticket for a sniper-intensive map like Miramar.
Listen, I'm all about this idea of, old players that got the experience and stuff like that. 15th, 16th is 2 PMSL Americas teams, NRG and X Factor, not performing tonight. So obviously, it's just 1 game. Some people got bad moments, but one team that I really got to give a shout out to, we were hyping them up kind of at the start of the broadcast, especially you Red Eyes, it's got to be Maryland. That first squad wipe we saw them take, I believe it was against X Factor, making clean work of them. They had a prime spot in zone. If they were able to just be that last team to really kind of stand true on the mountain, be able to pull through and really keep themselves in the placements, I could have definitely seen Maryland being that team instead of X-Force being in that double-digit point range. But obviously, it's just the one Erangel tonight. Next, we're going to be going into Miramar, the desert. I always wear those socks and sandals. Dave gives me crap for it, but I'll enjoy it to say the least. I'll get your opinion on it later on. But these teams right now, one team that I've really got to take focus of has got to be XYQ. Got eliminations, they got placements. Are you going to get better or are you going to get worse going into Miramar? We'll still have to wait and see. But for these sort of teams tonight, Red Eyes, they've got to make it work if they're wanting that piece of the pie.
Absolutely, brother. Only time will tell, but only 2 maps left here. 2 maps to determine who wants that $600 first place prize the most.
Yeah, and I mean, my eyes still are going to be set on the likes of NRG, maybe Inco Gaming, in all honesty. I could see them going from 0 to 100. I don't expect them really to just kind of kowtow over and give it to someone else that no one's ever heard of, especially the viewers here tonight. They want to see a team that they recognize being up near the top, because these teams, they represent us in Americas. They've gone international. We expect them, hey, this is just NA. This should be the best of the best. You should be at the top like other regions, namesakes like Nova Esports and China and stuff like that, BTR, Vampire Esports. All those teams show up in their own lobbies and dominate. But for us, we're still trying to find that shining star, like you said, like Coops, hopefully get that full four-man of those sorts of players brought together. And this is kind of the time to do it, Red Eyes. Obviously, there's that ranked grind. There's those sort of community tournaments you could play, but the scrims is where it matters most, because you don't want to go into those tournaments and not have the practice. You don't want to have that team synergy that we always stress so much about watching. And even for you, you know, even when it comes to whether it's ranked squads or just understanding that idea of what a competitive team really kind of looks like, you're wanting to have that team synergy, that experience, and honestly, that sort of determination to be better than the rest, not just in your own region. And hopefully these teams will really be able to kind of perform tonight and show, at least for us, the NA fans, what's able to really kind of happen. But don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to be going to a quick break real quick. We're going to be loading into Miramar for map number 2 afterwards. Obviously, we don't want you to go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everyone, to the PUBG Mobile Titan Series Pro Scrims Watch Party. I'm Enigma with the GOAT Red Eyes, like I stated at the start of the broadcast. We're talking after game one, Erangel. We saw 0-2. We saw Shining Legacy Red Eyes holding those top 2 spots on the leaderboard. But now, since we're only playing one type of each map, that Erangel, Miramar, Sanhok order, the Miramar, it's still anyone's game to take home that first place.
You're right, but I will say this: 0-2 did give me instill a little bit of confidence in me, and the reason I'm going to say that, yeah, they did get that second place finish. They weren't able to clutch when the numbers weren't in their favor, but they were doing a lot of distance shots there and really capitalizing there in that end game. And what do we know to be kind of the pinnacle factor of Miramar is the space between.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just such a large map and it's so open in space. And we've seen it time and time again. People fall into that false sense of security thinking, oh, I don't have anyone around me. That means I should be safe. But boom, that 200-meter Car 98 to the noggin will put you down real quick.
Listen, you know, I want to give you the faith, and, you know, we're going to see something like that with the Car 98, but I haven't seen a sniper flip or even just, you know, seen in the last 3 or 4 tournaments. Unfortunately, the sniper is just not the move anymore. But for DMRs, Jukes was on the wave for a hot minute 2 years ago or so, saying this gun is the Miramar gun. And then the Brazilians picked it up, and then they just started absolutely demolishing us in PMSL Americas. I felt kind of bad watching it, you know. So hopefully tonight,
I feel like you could have said that applying to any year.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Okay, I thought we had a good chance back in the day. Now with it being so elimination based, it's not our cup of tea. Unfortunately, they've got us in a lot of regards, but still, if we're against them, I expect us to be able to improve. Since we're, you know, that iron sharpens iron statement I like to make. Hopefully that's able to come through. But for these teams, Red Eyes, they're going against each other, just NA mostly here tonight. And for the prize pool on the line, the Miramar's what it's going to have to take. And most people, when it comes to this sort of events and stuff like that, we're playing no aim assist. You're not getting any love from the game. It's all you aiming and stuff like that. And when it comes to the love, we're going to the map order for what I enjoy the most on this competitive order. We're going to be talking about Miramar coming into here. And, you know, Red Eyes, you talked about Sanhok being your favorite, especially maybe for most viewers as well. Get into that later. Okay, Miramar is what we're focusing on, and hopefully we'll be able to see your Car 98 shot here tonight.
Yep. And now Miramar, as we know, to be the coin flip of a first half match, meaning that flight path is going to be a huge determinant in what sort of action we see in, let's say, zones 1 through 3. It could be, you know, say if we have that perfectly centralized flight path leaving affordance to nothing but tons of cities for the teams to choose from, then we are playing the waiting game very likely for a few zones. Now, if we see the not so opportune flight path, you know, let's say a very coastal riding zone edge, you know, sort of Puerto Paricio up to then we might be getting that early game confrontation, but it's all gonna be dependent upon what that flight path decides to do. And I think we're taking off. The pilot has spoken, the seatbelts are fastened, and let's see what we're working with.
Miramar is always the map. You got to be seeing what you're working with. We're supposed to be sending it right now. These teams, Red Eyes, they're looking down at the desert. And hopefully for these teams, Red Eyes, we're actually taking a bit of a break. False alarm. Someone didn't have their seatbelt on. But for these teams, I mean, I'm really hoping for Miramar, we have a little bit more of a slower play at the start, because we saw with the Erangel just now, it was kind of this sort of early game engagement. But now when we're going into it, we're transitioning, of course, into the 2 of us. Looks like someone bailed out on us. We're getting them back in the lobby shortly. Don't go anywhere, guys. But Red Eyes, since we got a bit of time, I don't want to be stressed too much about the game and stuff like that. Give me some history on you. Where did the Red Eyes name come from? Hopefully it's PG.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from? What's the content side of stuff? Give me the whole shabacle of it.
I can already imagine what the chat is going to eat me alive for this. So I started working as a graphic. Oh, wait, we're already. Oh, yep. The pilot is speaking to me. He says, we don't want to hear you, Red Eyes. We want to talk about Miramar. And I got you, boss. I got you. So let's see. Oh, my goodness. Well, to have ever jinxed a team here, you know, I literally dropped in with the Puerto Paraíso as the example. And right away, we're seeing it's either X Factor or X Force there alongside Ace of Spades in Puerto Paraíso. And that could lead for some early game confrontation. But as we know, you know, it's that early game battle for loot. So skill is a huge factor. But if you don't have the chance to acquire that armor or weaponry, well, then, you know, I think we're actually seeing it right here and now. It looks like TG Papi Trista putting in some work already on an opposition, getting an early elim, and no doubt on someone who was underlooted. And same can be said for the poor crew in Maryland who thrived in round one, but now facing up against the GOAT himself, Mr. Coops. And it looks like from this map, he might have even had a little high ground to get a surprise angle on him.
Yeah, I mean, these teams, for the most part, it doesn't matter how much skill you got, Red Eyes, other than maybe dropping early on, because if you go in that room and you're getting, you know, a frying pan and the other guy gets full 2 gear with an M4, I'm sorry, but you're losing that, you know, and maybe that happened to Maryland. It looks like they actually had more players than Dauntless on the compound, but maybe their gun choice just was not the move for Maryland. But for Coops now, you were talking about it. Yeah, he's got to be on the mountain now. Someone's taking shots. There's also that fight in Hacienda. There's a little bit of action towards Cabrera on the north side. But these teams, man, on this western edge, they're starting to brawl.
Yeah, man. And you know what? We're talking about Coops, a name that we know so well. We haven't even brought mention to his teammate Tensa, you know.
Yeah.
My first larger event of commentary, I believe, you know, Tensa was dominating alongside the likes of, you know, Beowulf.
Yeah.
This is a guy who is a full-on veteran, just the same as Coops. This is a guy who, if you've been following PUBG Mobile Esports, even with, you know, the breaks, that is a name that you know makes you take in that cold inhale, that you know, just Well, Mazaro of X Factor really trying not to make a single bit of sound here. He's got a full deck of Ace of Spades here right in front of him, and boy, they are on the hunt.
Yeah, the problem is, though, he's got a left angle peek. He's not having that TPP to his right side, that sort of favored advantage. And with X Factor, they were the first team eliminated last round. They're already down one Ace of Spades. I bet they're going to be, and as I said, I bet they're going to be looking for this fight, a 4v3 in the city, but I don't think they want to really deal with city rats for the time being. They're just going to kind of get away with their 1 point and start rotating, because the zone, we can see it on the top right, 2,400 meters. And if you're having to run that far, Red Eyes, I mean, my legs, I think they'd be sore at the end of it.
Yeah, man. If you're not in extra good shape, I wouldn't want to be taking that trek across the desert. But you know what? When we talk about a team like X Factor, we were talking about, you know, the conditionality of NRG and SLR before the first match. Well, X Factor definitely falls into that equation as well. Ooh, as we see Pubg cooking up a nade that could crash on multiple birds with one stone here. But X Factor, you know, currently I believe that they were eliminated last there, but they're currently holding second place overall in Premier League Titan. So, you know, that's against literally these exact same teams.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously tonight it's not towards those Titan Series points. It's just going to be for tonight's prize pool at $600 if you finish first place. But Ace of Spades, Versa hit that 180 swing on the Aces, or on the X Factor player. Now with it being a 2v3 situation, actually giving a free knock to X Factor Kiddo, trying to play that bit of an off angle, but Pubg got a little bit too overeager, Red Eyes. They're starting to make the nades rain down. Highman being the first one. Pfizer now having to find his angle in, trying to force the 1v1, but doesn't matter. Ace of Spades, even though they have one player knocked, Red Eyes, they keep all four alive. Free little squad wipe for them.
Yeah, and Versa pushing up with literally next to nothing in terms of health. And, I was going to condemn that decision. And then I saw his teammate be one-shotted from full health down to nothing. And I guess, oh, well, if it's a shotgun from 3 meters away, your health bar really isn't as relevant as you'd like for it to. So, I can't really condemn, and especially since, that's an extra hand to throw some utilities outbound. But unfortunately for them, it did not seem to pan out in their favor. But getting eyes on the Eagles now, pulling a group rotation. No Elims on the board yet, still trying to get properly equipped. As you can see, Legend not with the ideal loadout, in my opinion. The S18 M16 combo, I don't know about you, Enigma. I know, being in the pro scene, you're probably pretty comfortable with a lot of weapons, but if you're Red Eyes, you have your ideal loadout, and then
and what is that? What are we looking at?
You're gonna condemn this too.
Oh,
I like the UMP AK combo, and the reason I say that is because I use the UMP for mid-range.
Okay,
no. 6x UMP, and it's not because I'm good with it. It's just because it's that less recoil. It does less damage from a distance, but it's more stable for me to control. So that's my my loadout, and until I get that loadout,
Red Eyes order.
Yeah, so I'm a talker, man. I'm a talker. But when paintbrush meets canvas, I'm just doing stick drawings.
Oh yeah. Hey, I mean, I'm not an artist. I'm doing, that cat's looking a little weird like a whale or something. It's never the right thing for me. But when it comes to that, there was a lot to unpack here. Okay, these guys load out, for the comp space now. It used to be M4 Uzi. Now with the shotgun meta being so crazy, it's M4, either DBS, S12, or that double barrel. You never really take the pump. But for the UMP, I'll give it to you. Okay, Red Eyes, whether it was land play or whatever, that gun had a nice recoil. If you throw a suppressor on it, it's almost like a VSS, where you have a different kind of scope, because not a lot of people like that 4X VSS scope. It was just the reticle change was too much for people. But the UMP, man, I mean, it beams. I'm all for it. I'm not against it, Red Eyes. But the AK, the only person in my eyes that could ever use an AK, Red Eyes, even back in the day, was Beach Banana. SSG Pro, he did content. He made amazing YouTube videos back in the day. He himself, man, I mean, his AK was so clean, especially on ESL land play. He would just dominate lobbies. We would have to make note of where that team was specifically, or even if we heard, the AK shot in the distance, we're like, okay, 9 out of 10, it's probably Beach Banana, But these teams right now, we're actually going to be seeing a little bit of an overview of where they're at, Red Eyes. These squads right now, the zone shift pulls far west. There are 2 teams out in Narnia towards the ruin side, but most of these squads, like Dauntless, like the Poppy Tree Stay squad, they're all starting to have to maybe move in or either gatekeep other squads. And I'm kind of liking Maryland's spot. Even though they lost some players early, Red Eyes, they're just kind of vibing in El Pozo.
I think Maryland, I agree. I think Maryland has probably the better of positions given the lay of the land. And when I say that, I mean the majority of the playing field has a good distance to travel into zone. Now, if you're a team like NRG or INF, Golden Eagles, where are you going to travel into? Very likely around the Dauntless SLR TG cluster here. And that leaves a lot of vulnerability to be gate kept. And, if you are already having to battle for real estate upon worrying about getting a safe entry into that zone, that's just another thing to be concerned about. And talk about things to be concerned about. Seeing Coops here on that Overwatch, he clearly has a beat on those 2 low ground holders, and you got to know that if they even just peek a sliver, the odds of them getting a knock from Coops, it's just a little bit higher than normal. Just from knowing what we know about that player specifically.
Well, I mean, you don't have to tell me twice, Red Eyes. Both of these players that are live on Dauntless have both been on my team in one way or another. Way back in the day when I was starting off, it was with, HH, Richie from Lights Out. A lot of old faces would know Richie, of course. Love the man to death. Afterwards, we picked up Tensor. We played with him for about a year. Then he joined the likes of Tempo Storm, and then he went on to Ghost Gaming, Coops. He was on the Enigma fan club. Most people recognize that logo, that pretty face, so to speak. Then he went on to play EMEA and stuff like that. Both these players, man, it's just, they were always known for having that gun skill, making the clips that they get look nice. And unfortunately, even though I could call myself a pro, you know, I played international, played for many, many years, many different tournaments, international lands for a lot of them. Those players just make it look so nice compared to me. And I always wonder, you know, man, like, they're just that good. And it's just crazy. And a lot of people, even when you are watching, a lot of people here tonight tuning in, obviously have watched Pubg Mobile Esports. They've watched a lot of NA. They understand the talent pool. They understand what players make it look nice. Maybe some people that might butcher it a bit more, and other players where maybe if they're the IGL, you're not expecting much out of them. But Coops, Pensa, they're always the eye of the prize. They're always going to make it look nice and easy, and that's why we all tune in for clips like that, especially in the likes of PMGC and that stuff, Red Eyes. The top teams coming together, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and here we see K-Vic here, 6x Mini 14, using that DMR like it was a full auto and just making it rain bullets upon the opposition. I didn't see a lot of connecting damage, unfortunately, but boy, talk about an Overwatch position. Yeah, you've got essentially 360 degrees of oversight here. And that is a lot of opportunity to scout and relay that info to your teammates. All the while, Inko and Maryland re-engaging with one another, and Inko focusing on a little too heavily on Maryland, finding, I believe, a takedown on them as a result. A third party? Was that on the Blicky? Yeah. Yeah,
it was NRG pulling up, so they must have just been completely spread, just kind of biting off too much that they could chew. Looks like Guys is trying to drive in and make a notion, and it was kind of that idea we were talking about earlier when we saw the map. Red Eyes is, you know, where these teams are going to come in from, and I'm always worried about this crater field section because it's such a nice idea to kind of do this gate-kept sort of situation, but for the teams start driving in, coming in for the third parties, you start losing players like this, and yeah, Franco, it looks like they're going to pick up eliminations onto the players of NRG with them maybe misplaying this pull-up, but got to worry about the rest of the game. This is only stage 3. You're not able to just snake it out and go for those maybe 4 or 5 placement points. Got to get the eliminations if you're wanting to shoot back up, because they're sitting down, you know, in that 3, 4, 5 point range, I think, from the leaderboard the last time we saw it. They got to start showing up, especially in this game, if they want to make sure that they're able to get that contention for that $600 tonight.
Yeah. Well, you know what I like about what Inko did right there was that 2-1. They didn't put all their coins in one pocket. They sent, you know, 2 members outward to acquire those thirsts, but they did keep that one last little bit of Overwatch, that third angle, their outlier, who in the worst case scenario could get in the vehicle and dip. That means, you know, at the very least, you're leaving some opportunity for placement points. And so it wasn't a full-on committed push, but I think that that's kind of what they need right now. Inko did not exactly perform at the standard we would expect from them in round 1, but this is the only PMGC team competing today. And so, yeah, if anything, we should be holding them to a higher standard, especially right now of all time.
Yeah. And I think for Inko, I'd want to make note of it. I believe it's actually going to be maybe either their feeder team or just their NA players. Maybe they're looking to try out after PMGC, because I wasn't recognizing a lot of those names getting for that roster. But still, you want to represent the name, the brand, the organization. You still got to put up performances and show that you're not here just to rock a tag and look pretty out there. You want to see the performance here tonight, and this is how you do it. Those players through NA, even though you're not playing in PMGC, you're representing the title. You're holding the weight of what that organization brings to this region. You need to make sure that you're showing up in these 3 matches, because if you're talking about Inko Gaming, they've been in the scene a long time. They've got a large fan base. Even Nanabete, Vitali, those players, I mean, you could see it in the chat, especially in Americas and PMGC. Everyone's just rooting them on. Everyone's got fans like that. And that's kind of this whole idea that I really like seeing when it comes to, you know, the chat here tonight and all these other teams or players, I guess you could say, that come through, is everyone enjoys seeing their name get rooted on. Everyone enjoys seeing the likes of, let's say, X-Force. Let's go X-Force, clapping, you know, getting excited when they get eliminations. You want to get your name out there because that just adds fuel to the fire. But the fire is having to start burning now. Red Eyes, Inco Gaming, they're getting naded down by 0-2, and they're getting peppered down. One being knocked Rush. Star player of the last squad, Baton, having to get the shots, but can't overextend. You wonder about that back angle, Red Eyes. This is the reason for it. The off angle can't bite off too much, but if you don't get the return, it's easy to work around it. And now they're starting to make their moves.
Yeah, they're sending their outlier for a wide flank rotation to try to get behind Inco, Gary, and Rush, or maybe even behind 7. And it looks like trouble has struck here. Baton and Crow, both with utilities outward. Baton cooking up another here, and 7 with that low ground, still able to overcome the odds. All he needed was a little sliver, and that's all it took. 2 down, 2 to go.
Yeah, a little bit of love, and his teammate, I think, just tagged him enough for 7 to get the knock, but Gary, Rush, just both knocked. He has to push forward for this revive, and if you're 0-2, you can see when he's going for it, and it's not even going to be 0-2. It's going to be Maryland getting it.
Ooh, baby tang, baby tang, baby tang. Goodness gracious, and that is what we talk about here with Miramar, you know, and I hate to use this pun again, but when you close in and start seeing red on one team on a map as open and vulnerable as Miramar, you are just so vulnerable to 3rd and 4th and 5th party opportunities that, you know, you just almost at all times need to keep on a 360 swivel.
Yeah, and Red Eyes, I gotta ask you, okay, content creator, pub grinder, the GOAT of content creators. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, one of my GOAT. You're a GOAT in my heart, Red Eyes. But for the most part, when you're playing and stuff like that, you got to remember, these people, they're playing on phones. They're not playing on the iPad. I like calling it the Samsung fridge, even though it's not a fridge or anything like that. It's just, you know, a large screen. These players, I mean, we just saw it straight on Paul prone, instantly spotting the player, you know, across the way. Some people, really, I can't stress enough, it's easy maybe if you're in an iPad TPB because you get a little bit more of an overhead view. That's why it's not allowed. Actually, get a bit more of a screen size, allows you to see more than phones. It's this whole idea of just, you got to have the talent of spotting players. You got to know where sound cues are, because it's these split-second decisions, especially now with whether it was the Uzi, whether it was any of this sort of stuff coming up. It's just a matter of how it really goes. But one thing we got to make note of, Red Eyes, you got to be looking at the screen right now, guys. We talk about prize pools for these players, but tonight, if you're watching, $10 Amazon gift card code, enter the code in first, you get your chance at it. That'll be going on throughout the night during the games. Make sure to enter it when you see it. I think we missed the first game, but hopefully you're paying attention. These teams, it's not just them getting money. You have a chance of getting $10 yourself. And Red Eyes, I wouldn't mind a $10 Amazon code myself.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're sitting here talking about it. What's to stop Red Eyes from entering that code right now? But well, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I love that, you know, we're giving away to the community, people who this is all put on for. You know, they're just as much as, and they're just as critical to this PUBG Mobile scene as the players themselves, if not more. And you know, they're everything to us. And so you got to give back. But look here, we got NRG, 2 little birdies in a nest, and 3-point and Vic here with the Overwatch to scout that info to their 2 teammates down there, Bebe, and I didn't see who the other one was, but yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that Alim and Bebe are aware of these shack holders here, and very likely going to be closing that distance. Very likely got a frag grenade with XPX, his name on it right there, and just noticing NRG entering this match as only a 3-piece, and both of their players in this shack. It seems like a 2 birds, 1 stone scenario. Even, you know, X-Force could potentially get the line of sight just through that little window sliver there.
Yeah, X-Force, I mean, I'm expecting them to make the drive down. The reason you hold the mountain is for you to be able to rain down terror, be the crow, and in the night, so to speak. Whatever the saying goes, you know, I'm not as old as you, but these shacks, for the most part, it's always a matter of, I like the idea, but as soon as you start getting pushed, you really start noticing how little of angles you have, and that's why we're seeing it. Actually, I don't even have one of the players in the shack anymore, trying to hold back X-Force, but they're saving grace for energy. Has to be a connection, but he got one red eyes. He's got to get another, but unfortunately gets traded out, and now this is the problem. You're forced to split, not able to get the reset, and ultimately losing a player. But Force, actually, it looks like Baton on the mountain with them or something, getting an elimination and a knock on a Bebe. So X-Force, I like the idea for it, but they kind of forgot the mountain's pretty big here. They just let this team walk up on them.
That, as you know, I think you were actually mentioning this about this high ground position here. You know, X-Force has been holding it for a little bit now, and you were saying, you know, it doesn't exactly ring out total safety here when a lot of people are going to be contesting for that angle of Overwatch. And here we see a 3-point now catching a line on the likes of INF, trying to make their way in probably the most opportunistic vehicle for this map, that, you know, old Volkswagen bus. And
now, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. The bus was my favorite vehicle on this map because it's a wall on wheels.
It's a
you can't be telling me it's not a wall on wheels.
Yeah, but it's a wall that travels about as fast as a wall would travel. You know?
Go downhill then. You go downhill then.
Well, that's not driving. That's falling. All right, falling.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about falling. It looks like Shroud and Paul already having spent down into the dirt. Lazy almost knocked as well, but Golden Eagles, I like this idea of them not really overextending. They understand they're the center squad. If they can prevent them from entering, the nades should start connecting. And right as I said, AJ finding 2 players remaining. Force and Paul trying to get the resets going, but Dauntless, the people on the mountain behind them, they're all starting to rain in these shots. And God, you're the Golden Eagles, you just gotta kind of keep vibing. They're trying to go for the pre-fire, but not realizing his prone shooting right over his head.
Yeah, man. No. We were talking about, you know, teams not really having a lot of time to be hesitant. Now, the Eagles did not have the ideal first match, you know, finishing, I believe, like 10th place or something. They need these next 2 matches here to be critically well. And so they don't have the opportunity to sit idly by here. They need to get these elims, and they need to get them now. And with Trolls down, Moso and AJ here really need to get aggressive, and honestly, it's going to be tough. I misread that. Yes, he did get one, but revenge served on a cold dish and in full form there. Here we see Ace of Spades. I guess, you know, I'm the only one against these little tiny jack ideas, okay? Maybe my time outside of the pro scene, you know, maybe the fact that I've never competed in the pro circuit, I don't understand the shacks quite as much as y'all, but it seems to me like a recipe for disaster on a map like this.
Yeah, I mean, Miramar, there's too much elevation. Erangel, Sanhok, you can make it work. It's more of that placement kind of play, right? You're not really playing the shack, especially if you're holding the spread. It's more just that information gain, but...
I was thinking so too, man. That whistle. I was like, it's gonna. That was. You ever, you know, see a fist come at you before it hits you? I feel like that's what that grenade throw is like. You know, getting to see it in real time. Well, Caprice, being the high ground holder as his teammate Baton, goes in to get aggressive, and he does have 1 knock in his favor now with a utility aimed out for Chilled. It does not do damage there, but what he can't do, his high ground holding teammate can.
Yeah, I mean, 0-2, they did well the first game. They had those double-digit elims to sneak by first from Shining Legacy, only having that 2nd place positioning. But now 0-2, they've got 10 eliminations again for this Miramar. It's the same players, Baton, Caprice, having the eliminations to their name. Now they are down to a trio.
Yeah, but at the same time, they were a trio for the majority of the previous match, and 80% of their elims are between their players who are up right now. And on top of that, they've got an Overwatch over a 3-team little love triangle going on, where they can essentially let one team do the damage and then easy 4th party that.
Yeah, the hard part, though, is just when you hold the mountain, you got to make sure you can get down it And one team that tried getting in, at least away from the mountain, was T-Games, but unfortunately, Crown Nepal, they had the Shack play. They rode out the storm there, wiping out team. I believe it was the Golden Eagles, and now being able to finish off that squad. So just the top 4 here tonight, Red Eyes, in this Miramar game. Straight Nepal, they've got this Shack solo Snake player kind of next to them, and then Dauntless in their own little world on their own Shack.
Yeah, I'm not going to question what Coops does, man. Like, you know, if Coops says the Shack's the move, then you know what, the Shack's the move. All right, I'm not arguing with it. But a great thing to take note of is, you know, the new names here. We got T-Games and 0-2, and talk about, you know, if it happens once, you can say, oh, it was a fluke, it was luck. But here we see 0-2 not just leading in terms of elims, dominating the playing field in terms of elims, almost triple that of second place straight out of Nepal here. 13 elims and still very much in the equation. That is a formidable threat, and especially 2 matches of consistency when it's only 3 matches a night. That would be a cause for concern for every other team here.
Hey, they're hungry for that chicken. That's all I'm hearing. They're wanting
That's right.
The frying pan. I mean, I don't know about fried chicken, but, you know, I guess it'd sound pretty good tonight. I had that the other day.
What, are you not down with the Colonel? You don't remember the PUBG Mobile KFC collab?
Hey, I mean, the buildings they added were so sweet. It was great. I mean, I love thinking of the old matchups. Oh! That through the window?
The Wolf? Yeah, I was about to say, the Wolf is not going to be able to huff and puff in that one. He had a little tiny Shack there, but that is ultimately what the Shack wasn't the reason he was undone. The numbers equation was, but still, I'm going to keep going back to that over and over. 0-2, wasting not a moment, man. Just making it rain utilities here. And Baton edging forward, and boom! Frankie is dropped like a bad habit, and that is going to bring SON down to a 2-piece of Blaze and Wolf. Wolf is back up and about, thanks to Blaze cooking a nade, trying to give his teammate that opportunity to get healed, get boosted before re-engaging here. And what is essentially, it looks like a 2v3v1?
It's something like that. 0-2 actually was the team that knocked the Nepal player, Red Eyes. So Caprice and the rest actually left the mountain, left the Overwatch, and tried to get that thirst. So now they're able to work down the mountain, but Dauntless, no one focused on the mountain, chose to fight at the compound. So they've been able to sneak up real nice and close on the hillside. They actually hold the dead center, and with this being stage 8, Red Eyes, this is going into nothingness. I'm not sure how many ranked games go to that point, but this is going to be it. This goes into nothing. We're talking 0-2, having to work through the compound. Straight out of Nepal, having to deal with the Shack angles, while Dauntless has all the cards in their hands. So if you're looking at any of these teams, who are you eyeing, Red Eyes?
Well, it's got to be, I got to say, Dauntless, because, you know, given what Tinsa and Coops are doing right now, we know about their gameplay and their play style. Just going to exemplify their discipline even more so. They know that they're comfortable in these fights here, but they are letting these two teams duke it out with one another. They are exerting that patience before they push in, and boom, as I say it, here, straight out of Nepal, goes straight back to lobby, and now 0-2 and Dauntless up against each other in a 2v2, a fair fight to end round 2.
Yeah, I mean, 0-2, they made light work of straight out of Nepal, not taking any knocks. If one of them were to go down in that situation, you'd bet your bottom dollar Dauntless would be pushing up, but keeping it clean, keeping it calm, cool, and collected. They're against 2 Goliaths in the lobby, but 0-2, they've been the team that's been on fire tonight. They're already up there in the eliminations. Caprice, you could see, has 5 under his belt, while Tensa only has the 1 to his name, but can't let the numbers get to your Red Eyes. You gotta be dialed in.
A phenomenal support player. Yeah, a phenomenal support player. It doesn't concern me a bit to see 1 elim next to his name, because I know without a doubt that he is responsible for more elims than that.
My goodness, he was jumping off, Red Eyes, and he got pinned.
Well, you know, we were talking about the Goliath. Well, someone's got to play David to that Goliath, and it looks like that's going to be Capri's himself. And now with a utility to try to seal the deal, but he still has one Goliath left, and that's in the shape and form of Tensa coming forward, shooting Capri's down to half.
Yeah, I like the nade idea, but now he's given the angle to Tensa. They're both taking the 1v1, and Capri's wins it.
That was impressive. Like, genuinely.
They lose the 1v1, and I mean, both of them had have been 1 HP, but the winner chicken dinner, of course, like we mentioned, is gonna be 0-2 here, Red Eyes. The first game, they didn't close it out as a 2v4. This time around, the game ended in a 2v2, and they made damn sure to get all those elimination points for themselves.
I said it a few moments ago. If it happens once, you can say it's a fluke or luck.
Yeah.
If it happens twice and ends with you taking out Coops and Tensa, that is not luck. That is a team in full form, really in their element.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all about who's kind of in their element. We're probably, in no surprise in my mind, when we see that MVP graphic, we're going to be seeing someone from 0-2 up on this sort of board. And we're actually going to see it right now. The MVP 4 match, who's going to be Capri's. No surprise, they're winning 2 separate 1v1s. We're talking Coops at the start, and then closing out Tensa, who I thought was going to win it with the level 3 gear, but 1100 damage to his name. I believe the last game, it was only about 600 damage we saw for the MVP. So Capri's making light work of that number here, Red Eyes, showing up in that 1000 damage range.
Yeah, but I mean, MVP even more so for not just for the elims and the damage, but just the discipline of how to handle a Miramar in-game under pressure. And boy, in full form, 0-2 really striking themselves as a name to be remembered here. And, you know, Baton and Capri's are not strangers to us. We know that they are phenomenal pro players. But again, you know, as we said, they were up against 2 names that do put a shiver down your spine, and they did not let it phase them for a moment. But what about the MVT?
Yeah, it's not about just 2 players here, Red Eyes. We're talking the whole team, and by no surprise, we're seeing 0-2 up here. 18 eliminations is what they finished off. I was going to note that when they were that 3-man on the hill, there was only 5 players remaining, and they were, I believe, at 13 eliminations. So they were able to secure all 5 of those eliminations going into that zone 7 and 8, especially those 2 at the end with the 1v1. It just proves that this team, it doesn't matter who they're against, they've been on fire tonight. And if one of your teammates is dropping 1100 damage, I'm expecting, okay, yeah, maybe 300-400 damage for the rest. No, the team-wide damage, Red Eyes, 3400.
Yeah, you look at their eliminations to damage ratio, it shows that they are aggressive. For every elim that they've had, they have almost an entire another elim's worth of damage on the board. These guys are berserkers. And now the overall standings here, you see it 0-2, more than doubling that of the silver medal second place holder, Shining Legacy. And guys, our top 4 are 3 of the teams in our top 4 are new teams here to us. Actually, 4 of the 5 teams in our top 5 are new names to us here. Maybe not, you know, the players might be recycled names here, but these team, as far as the orgs themselves, some of these names are fresh to me, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future of PUBG Mobile NA Esports.
Listen, you talk about this top 5 idea, only one of them is putting on a stellar performance like this. I'm scrolling my way down from 1st all the way even to 8th place. The closest in eliminations is 11. T-Games. Yeah. They had, you know, a few under their belt, but at 1st place, I mean, they're sitting at 32 flipping eliminations. 2 games in. We're talking that 16 elimination average in these last 2 matches. Now, obviously, it's Erangel, it's Miramar. Maybe that's their map, but Sanhok is the map. Obviously, when we get around to it here tonight, that's the map where you're going to be focusing on eliminations. And these teams near the bottom, I'm looking at Inco, I'm looking at Maryland, Golden Eagles. You've had maybe some bright moments, but you haven't been able to chain those together, Red Eyes, here tonight to really start putting up the eliminations like 0-2. And at the end of it, it's not, maybe you can't reach 1st, right? That prize pool, you know, maybe they've claimed that 600 already. Luckily, though, tonight, Second through sixth, prize pass for everyone. And especially if you're maybe that solo player on Shining Legacy or XYQ, maybe there's still a chance for you to come through and steal that MVP title from one of those players, because there's still money at play here.
Yeah, man. As embarrassing as it is to admit that, you know, even $50 has changed up my plans for the night.
That's before. A battle pass, and right there. Exactly. That's the RP pass right there.
Well, listen, we only have one more map ahead of us, and we've seen our participants in the first map of Erangel before the Rumble in the Jungle, but we got Sanhok ahead, and only time will tell how that Rumble in the Jungle is going to go. But if history has been anything for us to go off of, it tells us that we are going to very likely be thrown into the heat of things very early on. So these players better hit the ground running.
Well, I mean, Miramar is, you know, that stellar true map of it just being so large. We talk about the long angles. A lot of the fights we saw, unless it was you kind of shooting people at rotations, people were getting up close and personal. And for the drop spots, obviously Maryland, they took the fight with Dauntless. They kind of got picked apart there at the very beginning. When you think of Miramar, you're thinking, hey, you know, every drop spot, you know, you should be able to share the map. But like that plane path, you're noting it down in the bottom right, only going up so far into the center of the map. You're really limited to where you're able to drop and get loot. And these teams really kind of struggled for it. But for these teams, for the most part, we've already gone down 2 games here, Red Eyes. We're going into the third just in a little bit. We're going to be going into a quick break, though. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'd love to see you again. And welcome back, everyone, of course, to the PUBG Mobile Titan Series Pro Scrims watch party. You guys know I'm Enigma. We've got the GOAT Red Eyes here with us tonight. We watched 2 games already. My favorite map, Miramar, being played just moments ago, but we saw the same name coming up time and time again, Red Eyes, in these last 2 games. That's going to be 0-2. Some name that we've never heard of before, but someone that you're eyeing at the start of the broadcast.
Yeah, 0-2. Whenever you get a new name, you got to be a little curious. But 0-2 is a team that currently is leading the Premier League Titan Series.
Ooh.
So S6, new name coming in, hitting the ground running right off the rip, putting in a little intimidation factor to the rest of the playing field.
Oh yeah,
and today solidifying it.
Yeah,
that is. They're 2 for 2 right now. They can call them 0-2, but right now their name is 2 for 2. So
yeah, I mean 0. I kind of like that sort of. They're 0 for 2 and they're 2
my
for
dad
2.
puns.
Well, they've
they've
only won 1, but they really won that first.
Yes,
match,
you're right. They did get second place.
They got second, but
the elims, 13 elims in the second place, still putting them at a higher point distribution for round 1. But you are right. They technically, you're right.
They're 1 for 2, okay? They're 1 for 2 tonight. But for the most part, we're coming into this last match. Red Eyes, you broke down the prize pool. I'm needing you again for it, because after this Sanhok, this is what these people are fighting for tonight. And those following weeks, it's going to be this $sign.
Yeah, man. That second place, that second place prize ain't too shabby either for one, 3 matches worth of work. One quick day. So yeah, sure. 0-2 certainly has their eye on that $600 prize pool, but there is still plenty of money on the table here, even all the way down to 6. And, say some absolute devastating factor happened where 0-2 somehow eliminated first and, not a single point on the board. Well, Caprice is looking at that MVP prize pretty heavily still. There's money on the table here and a lot of reason to be playing cautiously but intelligently. And I think that's what we're going to see here in the most aggressive map of the day.
Yeah, it's all about that aggression. It's all about how you kind of start and finish on Sanhok, because it's fighting from day one. And like I noted before with Miramar, you have all this open space. We saw 3-4 teams fighting early on. And with this being Sanhok, some of these teams, maybe they're not feeling it tonight. They're changing up their drop spots, maybe just getting a little bit more loose following for the next week. This Sanhok game is really going to determine who in that 2 through 6th ranking is going to be walking away with a few extra $signs, because I'm in the same boat as you. 0-2, they're not really, having any competition yet for their sort of, placement, their point lead they have coming into these teams. But let's bring in the map selection real quick again, just for a reminder for everyone what we've done tonight. That first game, Erangel under the belt of, I believe it was Legacy. Miramar, of course, though, 0-2, we just saw it clutching up in the 2v2 against Dauntless. And now, with it being Sanhok, this is your favorite, Red Eyes. You've been waiting all night for this, and I know you're kind of on your edge of your seat now.
This is what the edge of your seat was made for, brother. This is the rumble in the jungle. This is where there ideally shouldn't be much downtime for these players. And especially given the point distribution after the first 2 matches, there should be no downtime for any of these teams other than 0-2. If you're 0-2, yeah, I could totally see, a strategy for laying low for the first 3 to 4 zones even. Before, because they technically, if you're 0-2, you don't really need the elims. But every other team is starving for some chicken. They've been chicken deprived. They have no protein in their diet and they need it. So if you're not 0-2, I would hope to see some early on hunting and no time to waste.
I guess there's chickens in the forest, the desert, and the jungle, because now we're getting into it. Sanhok being this final match of the night, we're going to be able to see the playing path real here quick as well.
This is the thing
good.
here.
This is good.
It's good. it's almost irrelevant in my opinion because you know this map is so small. I've said this since I started commentating, but it really is not the most significant flight path map, you know, that we have here. You can get most places you want throughout this map, regardless of the path, and that's just because it's a 4x4. It's just smaller, and here we're already seeing a lot of distribution, but a lot of cluster here. We see Paradiso not going to be contested. It's going to go to FV alone. But if we were to look towards the ruins areas, we can see X-Force alongside the likes of NRG, as well as another team. Is that Maryland? I can't see their name, but it's Maryland.
Yeah.
So we got a little love triangle forming on the west coast of Sanhok. And that's going to be some early confrontation, as well as X Factor up against Ace of Spades. And Ace of Spades in a 2-1-1 split is going to put him at a potential vulnerable position here if X Factor gets early game loot.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's just Ace of Spades. You kind of just thought, hey, you know, we got this spot in scrims. Tonight, though, you're getting contested. We're going to make sure we gun for you. And really kind of just caught with their pants down. Having, in my eyes, as a previous pro, I expect Ace of Spades to lose both those players. There's no way you don't drop as a squad here on the final match. They're really giving it up. But, hey, I mean, if you're able to run away, maybe get out of the sort of city and kind of start proning it out, you could potentially make it out with your team. But with the zone shift going up north, a lot of these squads are having to take these fights initially to even make it to the next zone. And one of these teams, unfortunately, it's going to be X Factor as a 3-man instantly in this match. I'm going to find Kampong, and this is not the spot where I'm really picturing you want to take it, because we can see that just in the top right here, Red Eyes, 700 meters from zone. Sanhok's not the map with vehicles. You're going to be running for the most part this game.
Yeah.
And if you're having to take a fight early on like this, it's always going to be a disaster for you.
And I find myself, you know, being proven wrong every time I say this. So I wonder if I'm putting this out in the wind here, but it's just Sanhok is not a good vehicle map. You know, when you can hear the enemy coming on such a small, you know, 4x4 map, it really does give away any surprise factors here that you could be using in your advantage. But right now we're looking at X Factor kind of being surrounded on by Ace here, and with Kiddo on one side, one of his teammates here, and then one outward flanking, trying to, I'm hoping, get a wide flank rotation to kind of close in on a third angle on X Factor. It could be real trouble. And speaking of X Factor and X Force, I keep, you know, getting these guys, you know, tomato here, but neither XF is in a good position right now.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, it's just going to be X Factor. They loaded in as a 3-man. They played too passive. They thought maybe it was a full squad that dropped there, and ultimately allowed Ace of Spades to just kind of salvage the situation for himself. This the same iteration on the other side of the map. Maryland, a 4-man dropped here at Ruins. The other squad, they have the knocked player of, I believe, actually, it's going to be 2 of them knocked potentially, but you know, picking up the early knock elimination. This opens up yourself to that initial early rotation, and especially on Sanhok, there's always those specific choke points, those moments, whether it's the bridge, whether it's going through the river, maybe even taking that boatation that I know you and I love doing. It's always something you have to keep your eyes on, especially in competitive, because those are hot spots for elims.
Yeah, and we were talking about the dangers of taking vehicles, but Becker is the lone ranger. He says, yeah, he says, I'm going to be doing this on horseback here, doing a little rotation just to prove Red Eyes wrong here. But you know what I liked about what Maryland was doing right off the rip? Coming in to round 3, you know that they were out for blood because of where they dropped Ruins. You know, one of maybe 3 really prominent hot spot drops in Sanhok. You know, you got Boot Camp at Adicio, you got Paradise Resort, you got Ruins, Boot Camp, Paradise. Yeah, that's basically it. I'd say, you know, Kampong is an occasional, but not really. So they were coming in and they needed it. They did not enter this match in a very strong position. Maryland coming in 10th place with only like 7 points to their name. So really, what do they have to lose? Why not put it all on the table.
And I mean, for the most part, it's all about what's on the table. There's still that sort of dollar sign for these teams, but we're back at it, guys. Everyone in chat, you better have been tuning in. That Amazon gift card code up on the screen. We've got the link in chat. The moderators posted it for you to make it a little bit quicker for your fingers. But that $10, baby, if you go 3 for 3 tonight, that's $30 there, Red Eyes. You just got to be the quickest one to it.
That's right, man. Well, I believe in that brief few moments there, it looks like Dauntless was able to start putting in some work. They have not been able to finish the job yet, but I did see Coops getting a knock, and it looks like it's going to be a certain thirst to follow here on the likes of T-Games. Claus and the rest of Dauntless, if anything, using them as bait here as they're patient to finally get that thirst. But here we see it. Back to Ace of Spades, no longer in the immediate threat zone with the opposition. Now their threat is the blue zone. And I've said this for years, but, you know, no one, at the end of the day, no one has a higher KD than that blue zone. It's early on. It's stage 1. And so they can sit that blue juice with a couple boosts active and feel fairly confident. But as we, you know, move forward towards the end stage of this game, you know, when we get to stage 4 and 5, that blue zone is going to become less and less friendly here. And so they're going to have to get this out of their system now, is my point here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all about sipping that blue Kool-Aid, right? Now it's going to be someone else that's one that sort of red, that thirst for blood. 0-2, they've already got one E-lift down, and the Kobe again. I mean, Baton is just on one. Having one player down, it doesn't matter. The pressure is not getting to him. Having 2 players knocked now, 4, I believe, on straight on Nepal. And look at this. I mean, just full aggression. This team knows they've got it in the bag. And it's not even just about the prize pool here, Red Eyes. It's about every single fight they've been taking.
Yeah, if there was ever a momentum factor to be had, I mean, who more than 0-2 in round 3 today? I mean, especially with what we had just seen, you know, we look at a player like Baton having a low ground disadvantage and, you know, both teams cooking up utility, but we saw what Baton did from a low ground disadvantage with the utility last match.
Yeah.
The boy can work. So, and this is going to be no exceptions. T-Games is done. The games are over. T-Games over. And now, again, 0-2 carrying forward as a full 4-piece. Their entire starting lineup still on the table with 4 elims to their name, just further putting more and more slack in the rope between themselves and the rest of the playing field.
Yeah, one thing I do like seeing, though, we see that tracker on the right, you know, the match rankings. We're seeing who's really kind of putting in work. Ace of Spades, they took that fight early on with X Factor. They got all 3 of those elims and now taking the fight to SLR, most likely out in the edge of blue zone. We're seeing Dauntless, even though they had that 1 elimination we saw, they picked up 2 more along the way. So these teams that are in this sort of middle ground section, Red Eyes, they're still looking for eliminations. Unfortunately, the problem is going to be, can you get enough to catch up for first, or are you really just battling it out for that second place spot here tonight for the prize earnings? But one team that has really been slacking in my eyes, of course, XYQ, we're seeing them start to put in a little bit of work.
Yeah, but even while they do that, I see Valak, you know, pushing forward, desperate for that elim. And the whole time I'm wondering, you know, what about the other ace teammates? You know, he's just kind of pushing through that open field to secure that thirst. It ended up coming down to a coincidence that he wasn't spotted there. Yeah. They do have the majority of ace knock, but anytime you're pushing towards a knock like that, in that open field on a clustered map like Sanhok, it does leave room for error. And I'm just, you know, I'm glad that Valak was able to get through it okay, but it was pretty, it was an impulsive move in my opinion.
And, you know, I don't
know. Did Seven just get that knock right there? Did he just get that knock on Klaus? Okay, all right. I was going to say.
No, don't worry. He didn't absolutely just beam the guy like that. I think he got 3 out of 4 for Dauntless, so he just absolutely steamrolled it. We could see Tensa kind of in the distance. I'm not sure if he's just going to kind of send it in and try to get a few elims. Hope everyone else kind of butchers the placement, but a lot of these teams, they're still alive. And with it being so top heavy, with 0-2 having so many eliminations and those top placement points in those 2 games, a lot of these teams are still around that range of, yeah, we could probably get second place pricing if we have a solid game. So all matter of who kind of maybe overextends, maybe throws in the towel too early compared to your team. And Zuko, he goes for the shots and absolutely beams them out of the vehicle. Golden Eagles, really, they have moments of brilliance, Red Eyes, and then they kind of just fumble it after a while.
That awkward moment where it takes up until round 3 for me to realize that that's Zuko. Yeah. Okay, all right. Hey. Okay. Well, I'm picking up what you're putting down. And you know what? Our voice, being, a new team, it leaves room to surprise me. But when you see names like Nate, Zuko, Snowix, I mean, these are veterans nonetheless. Yeah. So I am not surprised to see that, Far Voice made it into the top bracket in round 1. I'm not surprised to see that, but it's going to take more than just that placement. And we've seen from players like Nate, that it's something that they are entirely capable of. So entering round 3 in 13th place is a bit of an underwhelming show. So I should be seeing them kind of going on the all-out aggressive here in round 3, putting all their cards on the table, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's really kind of tragic, especially for the likes of, whether you want to name Valak or Nate and Zuko, they've played on a team before. There's a lot of squads in NA where it comes down to, that one crucial tournament qualification. The last split, it was EMSL Americas. They fell just short of that in that.
Do you remember the performance that they put up the day before it didn't work out? The day before it didn't work out, I remember XYQ was that they ate their Wheaties that morning, and whoever gave their locker room pep talk gave a Braveheart-worthy speech because they came in a different team. And unfortunately, they saved the good talk for the second to last day, and they didn't have that last day.
But maybe they were just like, yeah, we got this in the bag, and then they butchered it. But it's always, it's any pill to swallow, especially if you're not even a competitor or not. You just understand, that when something like that happens, it's such a mental pull, and it's something that's a hurdle for these players to have to get over. You have to realize, hey, we butchered that. We got to go to the next thing and make sure that the work I put in now, make sure it doesn't happen again. And unfortunately, for a lot of our NA talent pool, we don't really have that following mindset. We understand, yeah, we got to go to the next tournament, but it's not, we need to put in the work now to be better. And obviously, EMSL Americas, NRG, they wanted to be that top 8. They didn't make it. They show up here tonight, really just, not really putting up too much of a fight for those top 6 placements for it. Obviously, there's 2 following weeks coming in for this event stuff, but for these scrims, I understand it's scrims, but you want to be putting the work in now to make sure it doesn't happen in the tournament qualification games.
Yes, and I mean, hey, if we're going to be giving the brutally honest talk here, let's just say it like it is. NA struggles with momentum. Yeah. That confidence versus momentum factor, it can be a very dangerous line, but it's something that we've seen time and time again. And to fully illustrate the point that you're making here, I will bring to light, X Factor, who I believe is currently in last place in the Pro Scrims right now. And currently, let's see, X Factor is second in Titan right now.
Don't say
and
I thought you were going to say X Factor is at 0.
No. Yeah. X Factor is a team. This is such a conditional region and a conditional playing field up against these teams that X Factor, who is up against literally the exact same list of opponents in the Premier League leading, and that is from literally just a few days ago to today being in last place.
Yeah.
That's quite a shift, and I think it goes to show, if there was one thing that I thought really went well with Nova 2 and Hyper, is that they kept a synergy. They kept a roster that was very familiarized with each other despite having bad events, and they were able to continue building off of that. And it's something that you don't see very often in our scene, we see our players switching partners like it's, a light switch at a rave party, just the square dance, shifting partners, and the rosters are basically at this point becoming a suicide drink of just, a little bit of everything. And that's great, but it doesn't leave a lot of time to find that synergy, that real synergy, that teams like in Hyper have.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, a big component of that was Zefon's influence was so heavy back in the day, right? I mean, huge creator in our space, really just world renowned name, to say the least. I mean, flowers to Zefon. I've met him in person at previous ESL events. He's an amazing person, to say the least, but for these sort of squads and stuff like that, they're wanting someone that has experience like that, even if he's not playing anymore, to be able to kind of show up. Yeah, to be able to show up and just give that moral understanding, that mental kind of fortitude that a team should have, and really kind of elevate yourself to the next level, because everyone starts off as a newbie, right? You're coming in, maybe you've played a few ranked games, you logged into scrims for a few months, and now is your first instance of how it feels to be under pressure like this. And for these teams, it's new. It's just a lot easier for you to kind of deal with the sort of struggles you might have if you have someone that's already gone through it. And that's why I'll say it time and time again, Red Eyes. You know me, I'm a previous competitive player. If you need advice, my DMs are always open. I'll give it to you straight. I won't mess anything up for you. I'll give it to you like I see it. But some of these teams, they choose to keep it their own way. And unfortunately, some make it work, others don't.
Yeah, see, here's the thing is if that safety net is not catching any fish, then that safety net is useless. So you can be in your comfort zone, but if your comfort zone is not yielding the results that you need, you kind of need to leave it. And I think that if anything can be said over the course of PUBG Mobile Esports on a region-to-region basis, it's that they're just NA has not been able to find that solid rock, especially in comparison to regions like Brazil. Teams like A7, Alpha 7 is a great point to illuminate here because of the horrible bad luck streak. I'm going to call it bad luck because just the streak that they had, just not winning, but being such a literally being the leading team on a player by player, even on a team elim basis, just they did not, throw all their cards out. They kept building off of it, and now look at them. Look at the PMSL Fall 24 winners, and understandably and deservingly so.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is just we talked about it of just NA doing the roster mania. They've had the same 2-3 players for God knows how long, at least a year. Same with Team Liquid. They're only swapping maybe one player out. So the rest of them, they got that synergy. Doesn't matter if you're in the same room or you're in a different state. Doesn't care to me. It's just a matter of if you play it down. And he got him with it.
I knew it. I saw that throw. I said if he does not move, Nate just sunk his battleship. Like, that was coordinates plugged in. He triangulated, did the math, crunched the numbers, and boom, rained hellfire down upon the opposition. And now INF down to Poppy and I believe it's down to a 2-piece. Poppy and Chills are all that remains for INF, and being swarmed upon not just by XYQ, but by Inko as well, covering up the back end. And to make matters worse, here comes FV from the side. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's just, well, the problem is in this very specific spot on Sanhok, this warehouse is completely open to every power position imaginable. And with the zone shifting up north, you've got Inko Gaming, even though it's just rushies, they got across 30-40 meter open terrain. They've got obviously the squad in Paradise that's just got 3 players hawking it down. And then the team on their eastern side, like you noted, Valak and them, really making a struggle for you to even get into the zone. But now we're seeing it, Far Voice. You're having to deal with the zones. You're going to have to start moving. And as he hit the jump, he does.
a little hardcore parkour, you know.
And he probably gets eliminated there if he doesn't hit it. But
what better map to play Monkey Man than the jungle of Sanhok? But you know what, Far Voice, I did see that they got a knock on 0-2. Now it looks like there was a bit of distance because 0-2 able to secure that revive, and that has got to be frustrating if you are Far Voice, to get a knock on, you know, one of the heaviest hitters on the playing field and not be able to go push forward to secure that thirst. It takes the discipline to hold back and say, nope, it would be certain death. It would be their undoing if they did. But no doubt it's frustrating. And here in Paradise Resort, it's anything but paradise right now. It's just a absolute love triangle brawl of frag grenades, and oof, Rush making a nade carefully placed onto Poppy and one to add on to it. Will it be enough for the thirst? I don't think it was.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just that was a solo of Inco Gaming. That's not a 4-man. That's not even a duo, at least. So he's got to do all the pressure himself. And usually when it's down to a solo, you can time out when the nades are going to come in. It takes that 6-second mark or so for it to pop. We see it right now. If you start throwing it just yourself, they can predict when it's going to come in. But when multiple players start making work, we're seeing it, trying to apply the pressure, but we're switching to Eco Gaming. This is the solo. He's actually putting a little bit of work here. Red Eyes has one down, another player down to 1 HP. Chills getting the reset, but gotta find the shots, and he doesn't get it. Almost gets 2 players, but
he did pick the right time to strike, though, didn't he? I mean, you know, you gotta get, as a solo, waiting for the team, the opposition, to be distracted with XYQ. There's no better time to strike and no higher odds of being able to secure the thirst than when they are heads up in a close quarter combat fight. And even then, 0-2 still here, full 4-piece, going up against Valak. We see oh man, he's chasing
him.
Of all the things.
He's chasing him. I mean, what do you even do against that? You've got 2 players and there's 4 against you.
Yeah, but
they just swarmed him.
Yeah, but why not? You know, with a DBS from that close proximity, you don't even have to be that accurate with your shots. Just let those that buckshot spray out, and boom. As long as you got the general direction down, some of those pellets are going to hit and do some significant damage. That DBS is the bane of my existence in PUBG Mobile. I just...
Hey, I'm a believer. Put it back in the care package. But a team that you wish was in the care package was 0-2. They're one of our top 2 remaining squads here in this match, Red Eyes. And
how many times have you seen the
hey, 3 for 3 on top 2s. One of them was a win.
Yeah,
by the way,
Baton, third match in a row, low ground holder in a nade battle against high ground. And, you know, I would have given all odds against them, but after seeing what they did in match 1 and 2, I, was a bit more hesitant. Unfortunately, not able to finish with that same momentum that they built off of, but hey, 2 silvers and a gold ain't nothing to wag your finger at. And unfortunately for them, the chicken for the final match of the day is not going to be tasted by them. It will be tasted by Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, that first game for Maryland had a few eliminations under the belt, kind of that same sob story. The second game being kind of shot down by Dauntless early on, but this time around, they kept 4 players alive. They made it all the way to the end, and they made light work of that top 1 squad in the lobby. And Maryland, with having those earlier eliminations, Red Eyes, and now them getting a win, these other squads, they got a few eliminations under their belt, but they didn't have a pop-off performance in both elims and placement. So I'm excited to see what that leaderboard's going to look like in a little bit, but for the most part, we got to still give our flowers to Maryland, man. I mean, that was a name that you wanted to see perform tonight, Red Eyes, and in my mind, they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same can be said, 0-2 putting their names, etching their name in the rosters in my mind here. But, what's great to see is that after this, these teams are going to go back to Premier League, face off against each other again before the next round of Pro Scrims, getting more and more familiarized with their opponents' play styles. So I expect between, the day 2 and day 3 to be huge in terms of confidence. No way.
We got an 8th player up here for MVP. I thought it was going to be 0-2 or Maryland, but what is that? Oz. We're gonna call him Oz. Okay,
Yeah.
Red Eyes. An ace player, 4 eliminations, 750 big ones to his name for the damage. It's a surprise.
I mean, that's one of the things I'll put it down to, you know, a little bit of commentary oversight, because we're so busy focusing on these heavy berserker, you know, elim grabbers, that OZ here was able to kind of slide in right under our radar and put up 750 damage, 4 elims all on his own. But
I mean,
if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1 or 2 of those elims might have been off the rip at the bridge. Perhaps, but let's see. You know, I still would say that the MVT probably wouldn't go to Ace of Spades, but let's see.
Yeah,
Maryland.
That's what I figured. Yeah, Maryland. They had 13 eliminations that last map of Sanhok tonight. 2,400 damage. Not our highest damage dealers. I believe that was at the 3,200, 3,400 damage range maybe on that Miramar. But nonetheless, Maryland finishing off the night strong, getting that win. But still got to give credit, obviously, to 0-2. They had that double-digit elim range, I believe, in all 3 matches. So you're having a team like that showing up and they're dropping 10 eliminations a game. Obviously, it's more than that, which is crazy for me to say. But obviously, it's more than that, but them doing that, it's just a crazy aspect to me.
Yeah, but you know, another thing it exemplifies is just how every map, every different geography does lend way to different skill sets. And Maryland, it does seem like the jungle is where they thrive, but you can't argue with it. 0-2, in terms of a one-night performance, you know, it's just the most well-rounded of the participants here. And wow, more than double that of second place. You can't really argue that. More than double in terms of elimination, more than double in terms of placement. So yeah, total points 0-2 definitely set the tone here, and you know that it definitely adds that intimidation for the other participants here, especially as we were just saying, these are teams that are circulating here and fighting each other in multiple events. Moving back into Titan series, it's the same participants here, and you know that every other team on the playing field now is going to be keeping an eye for 0-2 in the kill feed, not just for the one doing the elims, but the second they're eliminated, you'll see a much more confident list of participants. So interesting to see how it's going to be moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I really like to see is Maryland. They had those 2, you know, they had good fights in the first 2 matches, but they finished off strong. And the reason for them keeping true to their ways is they were able to secure second place here tonight. So they were in that 8th range. They were out of prize money, I think, in terms of their placements coming into this match. So them securing that win shot them up to second. Obviously, 0-2, they walk away with their $600 to their belt. But XYQ, they actually passed Shining Legacy here tonight, Red Eyes, who, by the way, that was a team that won the first match. They got 10 placement points. Afterwards, it was not even close for them even getting 2 or 3 points. I think they might have gotten 0 donuts in those 2 matches. So unfortunate to say, but these teams, man, top 6, congratulations, of course. Coming around to the end of it, of course, here, Red Eyes. Is there anything left you're wanting to say before we head out?
So XYQ, you know, they're getting 3rd. That means $200 on the table. So as much as I wanted to criticize Valek's push to secure that thirst, those 2 points of difference made a lot of difference. He just earned an extra $50 on the table in scratch for him and his teammates. And that is just amazing to show here. This payout all the way down to 6. There is money on the table to be won, not just tonight, but every night of the PUBG Mobile Pro Scrims, a $4,500 prize pool on top of the $100 MVP per day award.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about that MVP at the end of it. If you're in that 1st or 2nd place, if it's closer in the following weeks, you're wanting to be that stellar player, securing yourself a few extra dollars. But remember, for the total prize pool, that's going to be done each week. This $4,500 to be given out each week. And Red Eyes, I believe you'll be back again for this. So we'll be able to have some more PUBG Mobile action going on. But these teams, man, we're not going to be showcasing who the MVP was at the end of the day today. That'll be posted on the social medias like before if you're wanting to be interested in seeing who is crowned champion, at least for these 3 matches here today. But Red Eyes, man, I mean, I'm really liking your picks. We were talking about it off screen a bit of, like my first instance of doing this sort of watch party casting stuff of, you're able to pick teams and everyone's kind of throwing that curveball question mark of, are they the squads that are really going to perform? You called out 2 names and they both performed tonight.
Hey, I will say, some people could say it's luck. No, I'm just a genius, man. I've been wrong before, but that was a long time ago. And, I've been wrong once, and that was about me being wrong. So no, but I do believe that T-Mags is actually going to be covering the next 2 days of this with you. So but you're in good hands. T-Mags is a fellow production member on Titan series, very familiar with these teams and gonna have a lot of good insight for you. And yeah, if anything can be said is that the tone is set for day 2 and day 3 of these pro scrims, and with a Titan premiere in between each of these days, it's gonna just add up the drama, add up the tension, add up the familiarity, especially for some of these newer orgs. I could not be more excited to see what happens in the coming days, and I could not be more thrilled for the inclusion of these pro scrim events. We need this in NA. We need these sort of just community gatherings here where we can all really just. It's what is lacking, unfortunately, in our region. It's few and far between, but to see this alongside Titan series gives me a lot of hope here for the future of NA Esports.
Yeah, it's all about the future. And obviously these teams, like you said, they're going to have to start looking forward after today, not letting the past really get to them. Maybe you didn't perform well today. You've got Titan Series qualifiers. You've got this sort of events going on each of the following weekends. I believe that was the 25th or 26th, excuse me if I'm wrong, and also the 5th of December. So these teams are going to be coming back. We might have a few new names. That'll be for T-Mags and I to really kind of deep dive into them. But Red Eyes, coming to the end of the night, they're kind of ringing the bell for me. You got any final words before we head out?
Just that it was an honor and pleasure getting to host this alongside you, man. It's our first time actually getting to formally host something together, and it was just a pleasure. Thank you guys for letting me be a part of it, and look forward to tuning in for day 2 and 3.
Yeah, we love it, baby. And for the most part, thank you everyone watching here. Of course, PUBG Mobile Esports would not be a thing without any single one of you guys. We love the viewership. We love seeing you guys hype up your teams in the chat. And obviously, if you're watching, they enjoy giving stuff back, those Amazon cards. Hopefully, they'll be back in the next 2 weeks. I believe they will be as well. And for the most part, that's going to be concluding day number 1 of these pro scrims. Thank you for everyone joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a good one.